Welcome back to my channel, Navigating Midlife Live. Menopause. What supplements are essential for your hormones, energy, and sleep? And it's interesting, even myself as a practitioner, and I go on YouTube or on social media or whatever, and I see all these, headlines or thumbnails or whatever. You need to take this. Every woman needs this. Are you in menopause? You need this. And even for myself, sometimes I'm like, oh, what is that? Is there something that I don't know about? So, out of curiosity, I do look to see what's being talked about, sort of in the general media. But the way they present it, you almost feel like, "Oh my gosh, like, is there gonna be something wrong with me if I don't take this supplement?" And I've excuse me, I've had a bit of a tickle in my throat, so hopefully this doesn't, interrupt my life here. But I've had a few clients say to me, or when I start working with people, "Oh, I have a cupboard full of supplements that I don't even know if they're good anymore. I don't know what I should take, what I should throw out." And this definitely can happen. So I want to start this off by saying, as a certified nutritional practitioner, the very first thing I start with is food, always, because you can get a lot of nutrients from food. Of course, depending on how you eat, it's a little easier for omnivores to get all the nutrients that they need. Sometimes a little more difficult with vegans and vegetarians. Vegans, especially, I take note of certain things that I will recommend for them. Vegetarians, little less so. Again, depending on how what sources of animal meat they might be eating, like fish and eggs. Those are good sources. So I do always start with nutrition, but I don't just recommend supplementation willy-nilly. I don't recommend it just because, oh, this is the thing and you should be on it. I do recommend it based on what I'm seeing in a client's food journal, because that's the first thing that I get them to do is write down a food journal for 7 days. I love 7 days. Sometimes I don't get that many, but I do love to see 7 days worth because we tend to eat a little different during the week as compared to the weekends. So that's where I start. I'm also interested in overall lifestyle, overall health issues maybe from the past. And the other thing that I look at, of course, is blood tests. And there are a lot of things that sometimes I see in blood tests that people either need to cut back on a certain supplement or they need additional support depending on what I'm seeing in there. So I always start out that way first. And I don't want my clients to have a cupboard full of supplements if they don't need them. But what's interesting is I had a client tell me this summer, she was on a regimen of supplements that I recommended for her. She went away for, I don't know, a week, 10 days, something like that. She didn't bother to take her supplements with her. She just thought, take a break and do I really feel different on these? And so interesting thing is she did feel different on them or off of them while she wasn't taking them while she was away. And so when she got back home, she started taking them again, and she definitely felt that difference. So that can be the other thing with supplementation is it can be very subtle. And supplementation sometimes, depending on the type of supplement, it can take time to build in the body so that looks like I am going to have a bit of a throat issue here today, so bear with me. Um, so that can make a difference as well too. Sometimes how the supplements are supporting our body is so subtle that we're not necessarily feeling it until we go off of it, which is very different from medication, right? Medication, we're generally feeling the effects within sometimes the same day, sometimes within a couple of days. but supplementation does take time. So that's why some people will question, is this actually working? Now, of course, when they're working with me, supplementation along with lifestyle, all of those things come together, most definitely. And, eating habits, all those types of things. But there are cases as well, too, where I will say to a client, okay, I don't think you need to be on that supplement anymore because the way you've changed your eating habits, you're supporting your body through food. So this isn't important anymore. And so when I recommend supplementation, it's very individualized. No two of my clients will have the same supplement regimen as compared to another client. It's all very, very individualized or personalized. So let's get to the supplements. I chose 5 to start with because I think these are a good basis for most women. And again, I'm not saying that you absolutely need these in menopause, and I'll give the reasons why or why not. Um, it all depends on your overall lifestyle, your eating habits, all those types of things. So I really want to preface this. I'm not saying these are a must, but depending on what you're experiencing, they could be beneficial. So the first one I want to talk about is magnesium, but I talk about actually magnesium with a multimineral. So one of the companies that I work with, professional supplement line, they have an excellent multi-mineral that includes magnesium. And I like those all together in one. It reduces the amount of caps or tablets that a client has to take. But here's the reason why I recommend magnesium and the multi-mineral. So magnesium, of course, is well known for helping to give our body energy, helping to relax our muscles, helps with bowel movements. It can help with sleep. Magnesium can also be a key component for people who suffer from headaches. It can help, reduce the overall stress in our body. So definitely a lot of benefits there. Now, the multi-mineral side of this supplement, it has things like zinc and selenium and manganese. Uh, I can't remember all of the ones that are included in there, but women tend to be more mineral deficient, especially once they're going into menopause. Not all women. Again, it's going to be depending on what your overall lifestyle and eating habits are. But I look at it this way. The zinc, for one, is additional support for our immune system, so very beneficial. All of the various minerals are important for us. And as well, depending on the types of foods that we're eating, we can get minerals from our foods, from our fruits and vegetables, but some of the more common conventional farming practices are now starting to show that that soil isn't necessarily as mineral rich as, say, organic or biodynamic farming principles. So that's something that you want to take into consideration as well too. So I really like a magnesium multimineral. I think it gives good overall support. So that would be the first one that I would recommend. Can you take them separately? Absolutely. If you would prefer to take your magnesium separate from your multimineral, and note that I'm saying multimineral, not multivitamin, because we can get generally, again, with good eating habits, lots of fruits and vegetables, you can get enough vitamins from the foods that you're eating. So I don't believe in supplementing those. I believe in getting those absolutely from food. The minerals, a little more difficult to get. So that's the first one. The second one that is potentially really good for women while they're navigating menopause is omega-3s. And generally, unless somebody is eating a lot of fatty fish like the sardines, mackerel, herring, wild sockeye salmon, unless they're eating those at least 2 times a week, they may not be getting enough omega-3s. Some people as well too, their bodies need additional omega-3 support just because of their overall genetic makeup. And that's something that I've actually seen in clients' DNA reports, not 23andMe or Ancestry, but actual health DNA reports that they've had done, and their body just doesn't break it down as well or process it as well. So that's where some additional omega-3 support can be beneficial. So, what does omega 3s help with? Well, it can help with the moisture on our skin, keeping our skin a little more moist, because, of course, as the estrogen drops, that's when our skin can become drier, keeps our hair less brittle. Our eyes gives additional moisture to our eyes, our joints, all those types of things. It's important for our cardiovascular system. It's also very important for our brain health. It supports our brain health. Very beneficial overall. But like I say, if you're eating fish 2 to 3 times a week, a good serving, then you may be getting enough omega 3s. Hard to say. But if you're feeling some of those symptoms like dry eyes or dry skin, that's where you could try out an omega 3 and see if it works for you. One thing that you want to look for is for the source coming from sardines, herrings, mackerels, or salmon, because those are the smaller fish. So they're less apt to, anchovies, the other one, they're less apt to have as much contamination as bigger fish. So that's something that you want to look for. There's various forms of omega-3s, and that could be a whole other topic as well too. But there are some good companies out there, and that's where it's good to just ask. I would recommend going into like a natural food store or a natural pharmacy, something like that, to look for your omega-3s. All right, the next one. The next one I want to talk about is B vitamins, or a good B complex. And here's the reason why. So, a good B complex is going to support you in times of stress. When we're stressed, that's what our body needs the most, is it needs B vitamins. And B vitamins work best all together. I do see some people taking B12. Of course, that's very common with people who are vegans. But then that's where it's good to also support your body with a good B complex as well too, because all the B vitamins work synergistically. They work well together. So it can help us in times of stress, help us with our immune system. It can help with overall cognition as well too. And our B vitamins can also help to give us some energy, because generally when we're really stressed and if we're lacking those B vitamins, that's when we're feeling quite lethargic or just not motivated. So that's where the B vitamins can really help. Just checking to see if there's any comments. There isn't at this point. Another important one is vitamin D3 with K2. And notice I said D3 with K2, not just D alone. D with the K2, make sure that the calcium that the D3 is helping your body produce is actually going into your bones and not into your cardiovascular system. So exactly as I just mentioned, so why is vitamin D beneficial? Well, it's beneficial for our bone health, which we need. I didn't mention that earlier, but with the multi-mineral, very good for our bone health as well too. Our bones need minerals. But with the vitamin D3 and K2, so bone health, it's also very good for our immune system. Vitamin D helps to bolster our immune system, especially as we're getting into the winter months. It's very good for brain health or mood health as well too. People who tend to be lower on the vitamin D levels can sometimes suffer from seasonal affectiveness disorder. Especially here in Vancouver, we can get some pretty cloudy, dark days when it's raining, and a lot of people can really feel the effects. As well, what a lot of people don't realize is the uh, the strength of the sun. The strength of the sun is, as we go further north, is not as powerful to provide the levels of vitamin D for us to take in, or for the UVA and UVB rays for us to take in, they're not as strong. So anything above the 41st parallel, which is sort of like the southern US, that's right around sort of like Arizona, New Mexico, Southern California, those states, Florida, of course, would be included, Texas. But anything sort of above that, our vitamin D levels start to decrease, or the power of the sun starts to decrease. So when you get up into Canada, a lot of people stop taking vitamin D in the summer. In some cases, for some people, it's actually advisable to take vitamin D even through the summer, especially if you're the type of person that you have a darker skin color. You may just need that additional support. So, now, sources of vitamin D, a little bit more difficult to get. One of the most popular sources is cod liver oil or cod livers, but you can get some vitamin D from eggs and sardines, and you can even get some from animal liver, something like a beef liver or something like that. So, there are ways to get vitamin D. From the vegan standpoint, definitely a little bit harder to get it, but mushrooms, if you cut mushrooms, put them out and let them take in the sun, that actually increases the vitamin D levels in them. So that is a way, but you'd still have to eat a lot of mushrooms to get enough. So that's why I recommend vitamin D with K2. It's also one that I'm very interested in seeing the blood test for vitamin D levels, because for people who are really low, I want to be able to, give them guidance on the levels that they should be taking that would assist them. And in some cases, it's really difficult to get a vitamin D test, because a lot of doctors will say, well, you're in Canada, we just assume everybody's low in vitamin D. Well, I'm one of those people that's not. My body stores it well. So, I have to really watch how much vitamin D that I do take, because it can become toxic to your liver. So these are things why I do want to look at a very individualized or personalized scenario when I'm recommending supplementation for my clients. Okay, the last one, probiotics. And why do I recommend probiotics? Well, if we drink alcohol, if we are stressed, if we are eating more processed foods, let's see, what else? If we've just had an illness, like a stomach flu or something like that, our microbiome in our digestive system can be compromised. All of those things can compromise our digestive system. And this is where taking a probiotic to support our digestive system can make a big difference. Now, there's all kinds of probiotics out there, most definitely. One of the ones that I work with is a company that has actually created a human strain probiotic. And so it's come from humans that have never been on any type of an antibiotic. So they have a very natural microbiome, and they take that and they produce probiotics from it. And so I found a lot of great success. In fact, some of my clients that have had very, very sensitive digestive systems and they've reacted to other probiotics, they don't react to this one. So it can make a big difference. Now, why do I recommend probiotics when women are going through the stages of menopause? Well, one, if you've been on the birth control pill in the past, that could affect you. Overall lifestyle, by the time you reach, your 40s, your 50s, we've had a whole lot of stuff happen to us, and all that stress and everything can really affect us, right? So why not give our body extra support? The other thing is a probiotic can help with estrogen metabolism. It's very important that the estrogen that's being broken down is eliminated out through our body. And if we don't have the right right microbes in there that can get recirculated in the body. And that's where we can end up with being a little more estrogen dominant or having an imbalance between our estrogen and progesterone. Now, while we're going through the stages of perimenopause, up until we, have our last period, of course, our estrogen and our progesterone's going down, but our estrogen is like all over the place. So it is important to support our overall digestive system. I just believe giving our body support where we can. Now, the other thing that probiotics can really help with is, well, we know our serotonin is produced in our digestive system. Our immune system is supported by our digestive system. So when we're supporting our digestive system, we're supporting the rest of our body. So the serotonin, of course, supports our mood. And of course, our digestive system or our immune system, well, that just ends up keeping us healthy. So if we are, very stressed, those types of things, all these things can definitely affect how our digestive system's working. If we're stressed, our our stomach acid's not going to work properly. So our food's not being broken down properly. That means that our liver is probably not producing the bile that it needs to produce. And because it's a whole system, right? It all works together. And so, is our pancreas releasing the right type of enzymes? So it all works together. So that's why I recommend a probiotic. Now, can you get probiotics from foods and those types of things? Of course you can, but we need to be careful if we're eating, a yogurt that's full of sugar because, it's got the fruit and the sugar and everything mixed in it. Well, that isn't necessarily the best thing. How much value are you really getting from that actual yogurt? Stick with plain, add your own fruit, and in most cases, especially if you're adding berries, that's going to be sweet enough. You shouldn't really need to add additional sugar. And if you are, then I'd recommend trying to cut that back over time to reset your palate. Can we get it from fermented foods like kimchi or sauerkraut? Absolutely. But what can happen? A previous live that I did, I talked about histamine and the correlation with estrogen. Well, fermented foods can be high in histamines. So for some women, they can actually make them feel worse when they're eating these fermented foods rather than helping them. So, I guess it's sort of trial and error, but if you're not feeling great, this is where it is sort of a process of elimination to see what's actually affecting you, to bring those symptoms down overall. So definitely we can get it from fermented foods, but in some cases it's not beneficial for women. Kombucha, something that's really popular, or kefir water. Okay, they're all right, but if you're drinking a whole bottle of that, you're getting a whole lot of sugar in there in a lot of cases. Really, we should only be having an ounce or two of kombucha on a daily basis. We really don't need more than that. Again, it's fermented, it can be higher in histamine. So, this is where, in most cases, a probiotic is going to be more beneficial rather than potentially adding some symptoms to you if you're already experiencing things like histamine overload, those types of things. So, the other thing I wanted to mention is not all supplements are created equal. And this is something very interesting that I've seen over the years working with clients where, I've recommended, the companies that I work with, and I recommend them for a reason because I know they work. I know the concentrations in the supplements, like the concentrations of each ingredient in the supplements. And they are with companies that do a lot of third party testing and that type of stuff to make sure that the quality of the ingredients is top notch. Now, what I've seen with some less expensive supplements is that the concentrations are very, very low. And I had a client a number of years ago who insisted on buying her omega-3 from a natural pharmacy. And the one that I was recommending to her, she would have had to take 4 capsules compared to 1 capsule that I was recommending. So in the end, she really didn't end up saving any money. It ended up being about the same cost. But in her mind, it was like, well, this is cheaper. Well, yes, because the concentration isn't as high. And I really see that a lot in B vitamins as well, too. There's some B complexes out there that the amounts are so low that, yeah, they're not necessarily going to make a difference. They're not going to give you the support that you need. I see the same thing with the multi-mineral. I've compared various ones, and some of them, the levels are very, very low. Vitamin D and K2, well, those are, generally vitamin D is done in at least 1,000 IU. There are some lower levels, but 1,000 IU, and then it has the corresponding K2 to go along with it as well, too. And that's where too, if I need to, recommend a higher level of vitamin D to a client, I want to make sure that they're getting the K2 separately, so they're not getting really high levels of the K2, but they're getting the higher levels of the D3 that they need. So yeah, so price isn't always necessarily the best factor, because of the amount that you might be getting in there, and you're not getting enough of what you need, or you're just having to take more capsules. And I'm always trying to simplify that for my clients. So I'm just going to bring up my regular banner that I bring up, that if you've got questions about supplementation, or you're struggling, you have been feeling some symptoms that just can't be explained, or you've been dismissed by your doctor, but there are certain things that you're feeling and you would like support, by all means, contact me. My website address is there. I'll also put the link down in the description of the video. I think I did, but I'll double check. But yeah, I'd really welcome a call, um, to answer your questions about supplementation and what would work best for you. And the one thing that I won't do, though, is I won't just, one off recommend a supplement based on how you're feeling. That's where I do work holistically. I work with the whole client based on what I'm seeing in their food journal, what I'm seeing in their intake form based on health history, and then also what I'm seeing in their blood tests. So it's not something that, if you call me up and say, hey, should I be taking this? I don't know. I don't know anything about you. And that's also the other thing, that, when you're going into a drugstore or natural pharmacy, something like that, how much do they know about you in that moment when they're making the recommendation? And no slight to them whatsoever. They're trying to help you based on the symptoms you're telling them. But in a lot of cases, it could be something completely different. And I'm seeing a complete picture when I'm making those recommendations, as opposed to just a portion of what you're telling me. So thank you very much for joining me. I'm just going to take one last look just to see if there's any comments. No, there's not. So thank you very much for joining me. I will be back again next week on Navigating Midlife Live. And by all means, if there are topics that you would like me to cover, or there's something that you've got this burning, I wonder about this about menopause, please send me a message or comment below. I'd be happy to cover that topic for you in a future live. And if this has been beneficial, or you know a woman that is struggling with menopause, or struggling, just not feeling great through that transition, please share this video with her. Like and subscribe, because the more support that the video gets, then the more women who are going to see my videos. And that's my passion. I want women to feel empowered through menopause. No woman has to suffer through menopause, and that is my goal, is releasing information that is beneficial for women so that they can feel their absolute best through this stage of life, because it can be amazing. So thank you for joining. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week.